It is the Friday night. Neil Atkinson with Ali Gunn, with Beth Lindop and with Craig Hannan and with Erdinger, and we're in the Tempest on Tide Barn Street. I'm very pleased to be here indeed. We're downstairs in its cosy little room. It's getting busy upstairs, so the popped us down here. We've got the Erdinger. We're all very relaxed. We're looking forward to a great weekend. It's a great weekend of football. How nervous would you be if you supported Arsenal?
Very, very nervous. I think with the injuries they've mounted up over the last 7 to 10 days, I think with Arteta signing this new deal, they've tried to punch a bit of optimism into the club. But I'm worried about actually where they're going to replace Odegaard. I'm worried about the Raheem Sterling conundrum. Does he start? Does he not? Does he go with Trossard again?
And with the Tottenham game first, then leading into the City game, and then there's an away game in the middle in Europe on Thursday night as well. Like, I've got this universe where it's very possible by the end of next weekend, Arsenal, if they just draw this weekend and then lose to City, they're already 2 points behind. They could find themselves 7 points off City, and I think that could just break their brains. Yeah,
and I think, do you know what, the impatience of Arteta to get up ahead of steam is going to really play on his mind this week. I think that actually having 7 points behind with a midweek game, that's going to worry him. Is he going to start Sterling? Is he going to push Trossard back in? I can't see Odegaard being fit. I mean, there was talk, Beth was saying earlier, there's talk that Arteta hasn't ruled Odegaard out. I'm not too sure. I think it's a risk to play against Spurs in the North London derby with a player that's, 50% fit?
Particularly whenever his foot was fucking pointing the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? That'd be my...
But the thing is, the reason I'm starting on Arsenal is because we feel as though we're in something. But we're sort of, when I say we're playing it down, we're quite happy to be like, no, we think we're in it. But the way they've been in it for 2 years, Craig, they're now in the brains could get broken phase of this. A bad result, it doesn't go well for them against Brighton. They do well in the end, but a bad result against Tottenham. By that I just mean not winning. City have got Brentford at home, they've got Tottenham away, and then next weekend having City again. I just think if you're Arsenal at this point, they've been so keyed up for this season, it could all just feel like it's dead hard by the end of September, which is no place to be.
Because it is. I think we've lived this through various different seasons under Jurgen, where we're fighting up against Man City, and every weekend feels like it's on a knife edge, and every game feels as if it's the end of the world. And I see Arsenal fans, we've got Sam in the office, and I can see it from him. I can feel it emanating off him on a Monday, and if coming in after City have won and Arsenal have won, and they've had to go up against them. I think the difference with Liverpool when we did that was we were winning the European Cup. We were reaching European Cup finals, and sort of that eased the pressure a little bit and actually gave us a little bit more time. It just didn't feel it felt as if we were on a journey, and whilst we were on the journey, we were winning trophies. And I think with Arsenal, it's just felt a little bit like all or nothing with the league title for them. And
they've got European pedigree.
No.
Like, for instance, 17-18, we make the final. With Liverpool, in general, we've got 5 European Cups, and then in 17-18, we get to the final, and it feels a bit like it's going to be another European adventure every year.
And even 18-19, the journey until we win it like almost like we thrive off that, like we feed off that going into league games. Like it was bam, 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 game after game. But we were winning and we were pushing forward, and we could see you could feel something. We were building towards something. I think with Arsenal at the moment, just particularly after the result last week, and they were really unlucky. Like, it's just one of those ones where you look at it and think, on another day he doesn't get a yellow. On another day, Arsenal go on and score. On another day, it all happens exactly the same way, and Arsenal still win the game, but they don't. And so early on, that can just feel like a gut punch.
Yeah, I think it was you that said, actually, Neil, before the start of the season, that you could either see Arsenal go in sort of 7 wins from 7, or the wheels fall off for them a little bit. And it's sort of, we're at this juncture now where it could go one of two ways. I mean, imagine if they go and, they could have up to 8 players missing on Sunday, eight first team players. If they go to Tottenham and they win, imagine what a boost
feels
that
enormous,
gives them.
Yeah.
Then they go into that City game, bouncing, tails up, they get something there. All of a sudden, it really gives them that impetus to kickstart the season. On the flip side, they go there as a weakened team. They don't get the win, they maybe get beat, and then that City game again becomes huge. And so I think this next 2 weeks, as much as we're still so early on in the season, I think it's hugely decisive for Arsenal, because I think they've come such a long way under Arteta. The first 11, I think when they're on it, they're phenomenal. But I still think the one thing that can be levelled at them is that mental aspect and that mental resilience. And I think this is probably one of, if not the biggest test that they've had this next couple of weeks, potentially being without a player who I think has averaged 36 games for them a season in all of his three full seasons at Arsenal in Erdinger. To be without him, to be without Declan Rice, who played every game in the Premier League for them last season, for such a big game, I think this next couple of weeks could be really, really decisive for them.
I think, do you know what, I slotted something interesting today about there's 7 games in the next 22 days. Now, that's key for us, but I look at Arsenal and I look at their team and I go, like you said, with the mentality, by mid-October, the wheels could come off completely and we could be sat here going, they're out of the title race, they've lost 2 in Europe, they may get 2 away wins, you don't know. I mean, with their run, you're never quite sure with Arsenal, but you could be looking at mid-October before something comes up and you go, right, Odegaard's back. But then you look at the league table and you think, we're 10 points behind City.
It's, for me, all the way through with it, Craig, this is now, it's why it's so important for us tomorrow, and we're going to come on to talk about us against Forest. But even early now, because we're so used to watching the way seasons go and the way the points break, you know, for instance, United go away to Southampton, I'm just looking at that and it goes banana skin, given where they are. And United could literally be in a situation where they played for 3 points on the board, or if they get a point at Southampton, 4 points on the board, and already, maybe we're just wrong, but I think we've now become conditioned to this idea of every game matters to such an extent. We know when it's good, we know when it's bad, we know what it feels like when that hurts. But we also, you can sort of see where the advantages are, and I'm just looking up and down the league, and already, little things like we're already 4 points ahead of Chelsea. You see what I mean? And will Chelsea have 2 weekends between now and the end of the season? Will they balance out 2 weekends better than us? I don't think any of us really think that that's likely. And that's a bit of a mad thing. It's a bit of a mad sentence. You can feel as though you're just sort of, you should say, don't look at, everyone used to say, don't look at the league table till Christmas. But you forget what happens now actually massively impacts the league table the other side of Christmas.
No, I agree, but I haven't been looking at what others have done, or I didn't celebrate Arsenal dropping points the other week, and I think that's because I'm just focused on Liverpool, and I'm focused on the fact that it's the beginnings of Arne Slot's Liverpool, but you know, we're already on a journey with this football team, and that's one of the reasons why they didn't make any more signings than Chiesa in the summer, because they believe in the squad that they've got, they believe in what they've gone through last season and the fact that they'll get better, and also they'll have learned things from last season. And I think maybe just because it's so early in the season, I've just been focusing on each game, and I know that's such like a textbook manager-player answer, isn't it? And usually I'm like, oh, fuck off. But this time it's just been like, just win this one, and then win this one, so beat Forest, and then win the next home game, and then you're in a brilliant position. You've got a really, really exciting game against Wolves away at 5:30 on a Saturday night. You know, we win that, bang. It just, you know, ask me then, because then I'll be looking around, and then I'll be thinking about a title race that we're in, and you know, all of this. I just think that, you know, because it's so early in his reign, and because it's been a time of uncertainty building up to the season, I feel quite zen about how it started. Also the manner of how they're winning games, you know, the control, the fact that it isn't ping pong, the fact that, you know, it isn't this like, it doesn't feel like any of it's been on a knife edge or we've been lucky. It just feels like this like a brilliant Liverpool team have swanned in, they've won the game, they've beaten Man United, they've gone 9 points.
Knife edge is dead interesting, because what I'm sort of wondering about is how seeing, you know, other sides quite quickly feeling like they're on a bit of a knife edge. Tottenham, it's a similar position to the one I've just described, Manchester United. If Tottenham don't win, yes, they've had a difficult game at Newcastle, but they were in control of that one. They should have beaten Leicester, they don't. And Tottenham will end up being, you know, conceivably, if Tottenham just simply get beat by Arsenal, they're not played 4-1-4. Sorry, played 4 points.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And again, I'll say it again, it shouldn't matter. You should be able to say, well, it's only early and these teams will dust themselves down. But Tottenham finished, was it 4th last season, or they finished 5th last season? Yeah. You know, and the idea was that they were going to kick on. But they would, if Liverpool beat Forest, and that's still an if, but if Liverpool beat Forest and Arsenal beat Tottenham, they're already 8 points behind us.
Yeah.
And it's mad to think, but it's true.
And I think with Tottenham, it's a slightly weird thing, because I always think you never go into a season expecting Tottenham to win the league. You know, in recent history, that's not what you do. But then you look at them and you think, well, they're on under the second season under a new manager who did well last season, had an excellent start. And I don't think that expectation is quite on them, obviously, in the same way that it is on Arsenal. But like you say, they could quite conceivably get to a point in mid-October where all of a sudden Ange's under pressure, and the culture, as we know, can become quite toxic there quite quickly. So it's a big game for them this weekend in terms of the morale boost it could give them. And I also think as well, Liverpool have maybe been slightly fortunate in the way that the fixtures have panned out
very much so.
at the
Since
start
the
of the
manager's down to
season.
the ground, it helps.
I think, you know, the Manchester United game was obviously the one that we all sort of ring-marked as the real sort of potential banana skin for Liverpool, and for them to have come through that challenge unscathed, to come through it in the way that they have, was remarkable, and they deserve enormous credit for that. But other than that, you know, that's the only game in the first 5 fixtures which you'd look at and say Liverpool might drop points there. And of course they could drop points tomorrow, hopefully they don't. They could drop points next week against Bournemouth. But, you know, there's a world where Liverpool are going into, you know, the 6th, 7th game of the season having won all of the first 5 or 6. And of course, it balances out over the season. You all play the same, same teams, the same amount of times. But I think when you look back at the season that Liverpool won the league, they were 9 points clear in November. And I think to beat Manchester City in a title race, you need to do that. You need to be, maybe not 9 points clear, but you need to have built up a healthy cushion. And I think Liverpool are in a really strong position to be able to do that this season.
If Spurs are in our business come January,
they're not going to be, but it's more.
If Chelsea are, then we haven't, we're below par, we're below where we wanted to be. There's only 2 teams I'm looking at, and I haven't even looked at them yet.
There we are. We are in the Tempest on Tide Barn Street. We are with Erdinger. It is a pleasure to be here. We'll be back in a second, and we're going to talk about Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest.
And Erdinger, please.
Stop!
Don't forget the best bit.
Welcome back. We are in the Tempest on Tide Barn Street. We are with Erdinger. Just very, very quickly, buy me book. That'd be great. Thanks. Out on the 26th of September. You can get it everywhere, and there's live shows in Edinburgh, in Belfast, in Liverpool, and in London. You can find out where we're doing all of them around the week of release, 23rd, 24th, 26th and 27th. Well, I got that right, didn't I? There all the way through. Very impressive. The book is out on the 26th. It is good. It's called Transformer.
It's very good.
Yeah, I was honestly, I've put something in writing this week when I would say I'm not quite my own worst critic. There's at least 3 lads on Twitter who hate me more than I hate me. But all of that said, I'm not far off being my own worst critic, and I do actually like where it ended up. Liverpool versus Forest. They're unbeaten. Ali?
Yep.
Nuno, I did a little bit of research. First season when he goes to Spurs, manager of the month. After his first season, starts well. First season when Wolves get promoted, they only lose 1 of their first 7. Second season, when Wolves are up, they only lose 2 of the first 16. There may well be an argument that Nuno starts his season strongly. Some managers don't, some managers do. My point here is that I think he's a very rational manager, a very sane manager. I think that could suit us if we can get ahead. But I do think it will be a bit of a battle to win the right to play.
Absolutely, and I think Forest especially, they are the counter-attacking team. You look at their front line with Wood, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, Erdinger. They want to break, they want to hit you, but at the back they're solid. Nuno's teams, you see at Wolves, you see in the first sort of 2 months at Spurs, they're built on a foundation.
Yeah.
The problem being for Forest is you look at their first 4 fixtures, including the League Cup, they've never scored more than 1 goal. They've only conceded 1 goal in each fixture, apart from Southampton away. So actually, I think it's going to be a grind in the midfield. I think actually, I'm looking at Forest tomorrow and going, for the first 50, similar to Ipswich, we're going to have to grind it out, we're going to have to work hard, and we're going to have to fight for the ball. But I think after that, our talent, our quality will show. Now, obviously, the arguments are, how are we going to win that battle in midfield? McAllister, obviously, we're unsure if he's going to be fit. Does Jones come back in?
Yeah.
Do we get him back in a game where he's going to be tracking Gibbs-White for most of the afternoon, who's got legs, he's going to run? I think the manager's got a real balance here between he wants to win the game, he wants to dominate, and he wants to put a stamp, as he has done in the first 3 games, but he also wants to protect because we've got 3 games coming up in 6 days. So I think actually the manager will be looking to, I wouldn't say make too many changes, maybe 1, 2, get minutes back in the legs, but I could see him ringing the changes at 60, reaffirming our...
We're ahead. I mean, this is the thing. Everyone keeps saying make the changes at 60, but you've just said there, they've only conceded 1 so far.
Yeah.
You've just said it might be a battle for 50 minutes to win the right to play. I think this is the key part of this.
Yeah.
And Liverpool have got to keep moving the ball, haven't they? And then if you're going to get to ring the changes, you could do it from 2-0. And as I say, I think the other thing is Forest won't want to get whacked.
No,
so I think it could be one of those where if we can get to 2-0, I think there might be a bit of bull shake hands on it. Well, you've got to get there to get the shake hands.
And I think that's the balance you've got to take, is you're going to be in a dogfight with Forest. Every game they play, they're going to put it about. However, I think that the manager wants to get minutes in the legs. People like Curtis Jones, I could see Joe Gomez coming on and playing a bit more. He hasn't had too many minutes, obviously, with Konsa and Konate ahead of him. But I think he's going to have to strike the balance of if we can get an early goal, if we can get up 1-0, 2-0 by 50-55, I could see earlier changes being made. Yeah. Obviously, as you say, the balance of that is Forest, they're no mugs. they're not going to come and just sit back. They don't want to get whacked. They're going to dig in. So we may have to adapt in game. Slot may have to adapt in game. We go, do you know what, lads, you're going to have to do 80 for me. You're just going to have to do it. And then for 10 minutes, we'll give you 10 minutes.
I think it's a funny one. It's the first time he's had the challenge, but the most important thing, Beth, is to get this 1-1 and then worry about the details later on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, Arsenal going into that Brighton game before the international break. I know Brighton are probably a little bit more of a threat than Forest, but I think, again, that's a game at home Arsenal would have expected to win. And, all of a sudden, one bad result has potentially sort of thrown a bit of a spanner in the works in their season. So it's one that you can't take for granted. I think set pieces also will be key. They've obviously got James Ward-Prowse in now, Forest, who is one of the best dead ball specialists.
Ball's a lad at centre-half who's 6'5".
Yeah, they've got Chris Wood, who is always a handful.
The big man.
You love height.
Yeah.
I know how tall everyone is. You can't buy a player in this league without someone emailing me the height.
You've got some sort of alert on your phone when a tall fella comes to the Premier League.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got a keeper who's 6'8", Forest.
I feel like we should do a podcast specifically on the heights of different players.
Encourage it.
But they do, and I think Liverpool sometimes, certainly last season, were guilty of giving daft set pieces away. Go back to the Everton game at Goodison, they just kept playing it into Everton's hands, giving them set pieces in and around the edge of the area. And what you don't want, the Forest are exactly the sort of team you don't want to give away a goal to an early set piece and then be sort of having to fight to get back into the game. So yeah, I think it's one of them. It'd be quite nice if we had another game where it's sort of quite easy, not easy, but quite controlled. There's not chaos.
You want it to be like Brentford.
You want it to be like Brentford. You don't want it to be a Jurgen Klopp, as fantastic as those games were, as exhilarating as they were. Jurgen, if you're watching, I love you, but you want one of those games. It's one of those games you want won by 60, 70 minutes, and you can make the changes.
Just on, you mentioned Ward-Prowse there. He might not start because they've got Elliot Anderson, but his delivery's the business as well. I think that out of the PSR nonsense, I actually think Forest have actually done quite well out of it in the end, all that back and forth, because Elliot Anderson's a really good purchase.
They've got 40 million or something?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because it was all a bit rinky-dink, wasn't it? It wasn't real.
No, I know.
But they ended up with Elliot Anderson in there as well. They got rid of the goalkeeper that they didn't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You go through the sort of the list of it. I think they look in good sharp nick. The one thing I think though is both fullbacks, I include Nico Williams, who's a player we've admired, but I think both fullbacks use the physicality and use the pace to get out of situations, whereas that could suit Salah and Diaz, who were too smart for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in terms of when they do go forward, that space in behind will be huge. And I do think Liverpool will have too much for them. I really do. But as Ali said, they're not mugs. Forest and Nuno is, as you say, a very practical manager, and I think they will set up to frustrate and Liverpool just can't allow themselves to get sucked into that. They just need to play their own game and stay patient, and hopefully the goals will come.
You might make a couple of changes. McAllister got the knock. He's got to assess this and go from there. I don't know if he'll do the thing that I'd possibly do, but I could be wrong and he can be right, which is to pick your Milan team and work back. I wonder if he said today in his press conference he was just going to stay in the moment on this one and just pick the right team for this one and then go from there. That said, he's had time to work with Jones across the entire international break, or his team have. He's had time to work with Nunez across the whole international break. Do you think he might change it, or do you think it will be the 11 that went to Old Trafford?
I think it'll be the 11 that went to Old Trafford. I think he'll get through this game. You might see a couple of changes in Milan, and then I think it actually might be the game against Bournemouth next week that you see more changes. You might see a start for someone like Bradley. I don't think he does that in this game. I think given Trent's performances in the international break, I think you put him straight back in. He obviously plays against AC Milan at San Siro in the Champions League first game back. I think maybe next week they maybe look at his legs as an example. I just don't see many changes. I think, look, obviously they'll know when someone like Ryan Gravenberch comes back and he's played 290 minutes for Holland and he was great as well, but they might look at him and say, well, maybe he looks a bit, given his sort of past with injuries and stuff like that, they might not risk him. But I just think they go again. I'd like them to go again. I think I've just loved Liverpool particularly over the last two games and the second half against Ipswich. I've been watching the Liverpool team that makes me really, really excited, and that element of control that I'm talking about, but also the fact that they just look like a serious football team. That's the thing about them. I'm just looking at them thinking, you're serious. The fact that they're able to get to 2-0 and hold it. Some at Old Trafford they fancied a third and they got a third. They might have got a fourth, but I want more of that.
He was asked about Elliot, and he was today. What's really interesting, and I've sort of checked it. He made the point that I've got to pick 20, and the point he's making is someone's not getting picked in the 20. As much as you can say, players want to play, but Elliot will be the 22nd man. Someone's going to have to be the 21st man. That was where there was controversy around Gomez for the game against the first game of the season against Ipswich, and that came out, Craig. I think it's worth pointing that out. I still think they could have done with certainly one more in midfield at the very least, and I think they would have been one in, one out in defence. Whether we like that or not, I think that's what they would have done. But their argument would be, it's because it's massive now to leave a player out your 20. You know what I mean? So Tyler Morton's not going to be in the 20, I wouldn't have thought. Trey Naoni's not going to be in the 20, I wouldn't have thought. But someone else isn't getting in that 20, whether it's Quansah, whether it's Gomez, whether it's Shimikas, someone else isn't getting in that 20. It's worth pointing that out at the moment.
You and I have watched enough Liverpool teams to know that in a month's time, that goes out the window. It's an easy conversation.
I'm sending pigeons to Arne Slot's house, reminding them of this at the minute. Any form of comms I can do to send it to him and go, well, you know, it is, but I'm just saying for this game.
You're going to be in the 20 in a month's time.
I know, but I think it's very easy. It's an easy conversation. And look, I'm sure Arne Slot will say it's more difficult than I'm saying it is, having to turn around to someone like Joe Gomez in the first day and say, "No, you're not in there." But I just think you know they can see the fixtures. You know, they can see that they're every 3 or 4 days. They can see they're going to get opportunities. You know, they've been in Liverpool sides before where there's been numerous injuries. Yeah. It's such a shame with Elliot because he looked so bright in pre-season. I was really excited about him, and I just think he probably hasn't had the rub of the green that he deserves in terms of starts and opportunities over the past 6-7 months. Given,
maybe even longer, yeah.
Yeah. Given the way he's impacted games off the bench, which sometimes goes against you in that you're on the bench because you can impact games off it. But also just whenever he has started, I think he's been great through the pre-season. He looked great, particularly in that 10 role. I've said it loads of times. I think this change with 2. And then I know one ahead has just suited all of our midfielders. And I think Elliott's one of those. Playing as a 10, it really suited him. So I'm gutted for him because he would have got minutes. Maybe not in the next 2, but definitely the third one this week. But yeah, I just wouldn't make any changes. I'd go again.
Okay, how are we going to go?
Well, do you know what? I think the most important player for us actually tomorrow could be Konate, because he has a tendency to get into these games and he'll want a physical fight with someone like Chris Wood. And we saw it with Klopp, where he'd go into battles that are just unnecessary. And I think tomorrow, if Ward-Prowse is going to play, he needs Virgin in his ear for 90 minutes. Go in, stand off, go to him, stand off. And if we don't respect Forest, I could see us falling into the trap of, like I said, it's going to be a slog. They're going to want to make it a slog and slow us down. That being said, how are we going to get on? I see nothing past a 3-0.
3-0? Yeah, okay, I like it.
Optimistic.
I like the 3-0, Beth.
I'm going to go 2-0.
2-0.
Oh, I'd like a little cheeky 3-0, I think just don't offer them an encouragement, and that's one of the things I said earlier, is they look like a serious football team. That's the thing they haven't done so far. There's a little bit of it against Ipswich, but not much. Really. Nothing clear cut, nothing to worry about. So I'm going to go 3-0. I want more business from Mo Salah. I want more sort of brilliant play in midfield from Ryan Gravenberch to continue to get us all excited, and I want another goal for Diaz as well, because he's been brilliant.
There we are. It's been the Friday night. Thank you very much to Ali, to Craig, and to Beth, to Erdinger, and to the Tempest on Side Barn Street. More of this sort of thing. Let's see how we all feel after what could be a pretty big weekend with a lot of big games.